Well, here we are. It's that time of year. The Academy Awards have come around once again, and that, of course, means it is time to talk about my 10 favorite movies from 2025. Now, even more so than last year, while I don't think 2025 had the same peaks that 2024 did, it had almost exactly the same amount of great films, maybe even slightly more, which is to say the amount of honorable mentions you're going to see on this list is absolutely out of this world. But even though the industry at large has a lot of looming prospects that may seem very detrimental in the years to come, it feels as though cinema is stronger than ever, especially considering how many auteur-driven studio films we got, which may be regarded in the years to come to be critical and cultural landmarks, but also so many amazing independently driven films from all across the globe. We really were in, yet again, another wealth of riches for the movies in 2025, and there's just so many I cannot wait to talk about in this video. And as you all know by this point in time, before I get into any of those movies, I want to talk about my 5 favorite performances from the movies last year. And kicking off this list at number 5, I have Sean Penn in One Battle After Another. I've never seen a character so pathetic, hilarious, and terrifying all at the same time, and that is exactly what Sean Penn gives us with Colonel Lockjaw, which is one of the most masterfully conceived villain characters that we have seen in the movies. From every single facial mannerism to the now iconic walk, Penn is making one bizarre choice after another. There is such an unpredictability of not only what the character of Lockjaw is going to do, but also his delivery at every step of the way is so off-kilter and hysterical, causing for some of the funniest lines in all of cinema in 2025.
You like black girls? I love them. I love them.
But he brings such a richly complex villain who really you do not want to stand in the way of, to such great effect. This really, I think, is going to be the film that wins Sean Penn his 3rd Academy Award, and I really do think that it is one of his absolute best. Say what you will about Penn, but really there is no denying that he is one of the best to ever do it. And at number 4, I have Jonathan Majors in Magazine Dreams. Yeah, now I know this one is a very controversial choice, not because of the performance itself, but obviously Jonathan Majors' personal history. But if we are to separate the art and the artist, which I know in this case is a little bit harder to do, the manner in which Majors captures the headspace of this muscle-laden incel is nothing short of masterful and transformative to a level in which we had not seen from him, which is saying a lot because this is the 2nd time in my year-end list that Jonathan Majors makes my top 5 performances. And even if the movie itself narratively faltered a little bit, that had nothing to do with how captivating Majors is in every second he's on screen. One minute he's making you squirm in your seat, and then another second you somehow feel bad for the circumstances that he's placed in. And that level of empathy for a character like this is really, really hard to pull off. It's just unfortunate that this didn't pan out to be what was supposed to be the most glorious moment of his career, perhaps the film that would have won him an Academy Award, but alas, that was unfortunately not in the cards for this very talented performer, which, regardless of his actions, cannot be denied in this tour de force career best performance. And the next 3 performances on this list, quite honestly, probably clear all of my favorite performances from 2024. These are all-timer performances as far as I'm concerned. And coming in at number 3, I have Rose Byrne in If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. Now, I have been a little bit familiar with Rose Byrne's work throughout the years, primarily in comedy, but I did not expect such an emotionally tolling and demanding performance from Byrne, where she is literally in almost every single second of this film in close-up, delivering every single ounce of anxiety, stress that is being thrust upon this mentally struggling mother. And on top of that, her comedic chops are on full display amidst the chaos of everything in her life crumbling down around her. I cannot describe how magnificent this performance is, and I really do think if it weren't for another performance I'm going to talk about later in this section, she would easily be winning the Oscar for Best Actress, and I'm so glad that she is finally getting the recognition she rightfully deserves. And at number 2, I have Ethan Hawke in Richard Linklater's Blue Moon, which feels like such an amalgamation of all the work that they have done together throughout the years, where Ethan Hawke plays the legendary songwriter Lorenz Hart. In the performance, I would choose to win the Academy Award for Best Actor, his first nomination in that category, in fact, which is crazy considering how lengthy of a career that Ethan Hawke has had in the industry. But this really is, along with his performance in First Reform, which was my favorite of 2018, his career best work, where literally every single choice that he makes throughout the entirety of this film is so inspired, so surprising, and we've truly never seen Ethan Hawke transform to the lengths that he does for Lorenz Hart. And the whole movie is just one captivating line delivery after the next, as this is just him yapping his ass off for almost 2 hours, but it captures such a broken soul, a brilliant yet tortured artist that left us way too soon, and is such a testament to everything that made him Lorenz Hart. I really do think that this was worth the wait for Hawke and Linklater to come back together with Robert Kaplow's indelible Oscar-nominated screenplay. If anything, this is just more proof as to why Ethan Hawke has had a career spanning over 40 years, because he is one of the most reliable and consistent in the industry, and I really hope that he is recognized for his tremendous performance in Blue Moon. And for my favorite performance of 2025, as it should come as no surprise, it's Jessie Buckley in Hamnet. When I walked out of the screening at the Toronto Film Festival for Hamnet, everybody knew immediately that she was going to win the Academy Award for Best Actress, and she has not lost any steam this award season. This is one of the most undeniable showcases for acting in the history of the medium. Not only is she subtly captivating in a lot of the early scenes, especially between her and Paul Mescal's William Shakespeare, even more so than Rose Byrne in If I Had Legs I'd Kick You, you see Jessie Buckley as Agnes in this go through the ringer. I mean, she runs the whole gamut of grief and the whole spectrum of human emotion. It is one of the most devastating, all-consuming, and somehow life-affirming performances that you will ever see in the cinematic medium. And how it all falls into place in the film's final moments moved me more than any other performance that I saw in the movies in 2025. This kind of work is what the Academy Award for Acting was made for, and I truly think that Buckley's performance as Agnes Shakespeare will be studied by actors for the rest of time. And now I present to you the boatload of honorable mentions I had from 2025. And I thought 37 from 2024 was a lot, but this was even just a teensy-weensy notch above. So let me get into them, and they are as follows. 28 Years Later, The Alabama Solution, Apocalypse in the Tropics, The Baltimoreans, Black Bag, Blue Moon, Begonia, Butterfly, Caught Stealing, Deaf President Now, Elio, The Encampments, The Fantastic Four First Steps, Frankenstein, Good News, Happy End, If I Had Legs I'd Kick You, It Was Just an Accident, J. Kelly, Left-Handed Girl, The Life of Chuck, The Long Walk, Materialist, Men of War, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, Ninja 2, 1-to-1, John and Yoko, The Plague, Predator: Killer of Killers, Resurrection, The Secret Agent, Sentimental Value, Tatami, Thudarum, Thunderbolts, Together, Train Dreams, Twinless, Weapons, and my 3 glorified honorable mentions: Chainsaw Man, the movie, Reze Arc, The Perfect Neighbor, and The Voice of Hind Rajab. All 3 of these could have made my list in a lesser year, and that isn't necessarily a knock at any years that don't have this many phenomenal movies. I just think 2025 has had more great films than any other year than I have been reviewing movies, and I said that last year, but it certainly continues to be the case and hopefully carries on through 2026. But without further ado, we have made it to the part of the video that I'm sure you all are looking forward to the most, and that is my top 10 films of 2025. So let's rip right into it at number 10. And at the bottom of my list for the top 10 films of 2025, I have Dead to Rights, directed by Shen Ao. And this is exactly why I always wait to upload my video till we get to the Oscars, because I recently just saw this like last week. And after careful consideration, I knew I had to throw this on the list. Captured with all the splendor you'd expect from a historical epic of this magnitude, Shen Ao immediately throws you into both the chaos and inhumanity of the Nanjing Massacre, featuring some of the most brutal and shocking moments of violence ever put to screen, even in comparison to other war films of its kind. There was one moment in particular where I literally gasped out loud, and there aren't usually many films that can make me that audibly shocked and disturbed by what I saw on screen. And that's only one of the many reasons why I was so enthralled by Dead to Rights from start to finish. Following a group of Chinese citizens pitted against the oppressive and murderous Imperial Japanese Army, this film quilts together its mosaic of characters into a masterfully conceived story that continuously heightens the stakes and tension and eventually pays them off in such a rewarding fashion, with each moving piece falling into place and exploding like a powder keg in the film's sensational third act. Not only should this be seen by more people outside of its home country, mainly because I think that this is an essential historical account that people should be aware happened, because something this horrendous should never be forgotten. But I sincerely hope this rousing war drama is seen as a classic of its genre in the years to come, and also of Chinese cinema, because this quite possibly is the greatest Chinese film I've ever seen, and such a great testament to all those who lost their lives during this horrifying event. And that, guys, is going to take us to the next entry on this list, coming in at number 9.
How did you cope with Kathy being gone?
I didn't.
So I think we can all agree that 2025 was an especially phenomenal year in the horror genre, and that was most certainly the case with Bring Her Back, the sophomore feature from Michael and Danny Philippou, which will not be the last horror film to be featured in my top 10. After the massive success of the duo's debut, Talk to Me, which is a film I fairly enjoyed and kind of terrified by, Michael and Danny Philippou took everything that made their first outing so squirm-inducingly memorable and vastly improved upon it in Bring Her Back, featuring a sharper screenplay that gives much more weight and depth to its characters and thematic execution. Through the remarkable central performance from Sally Hawkins in one of her most memorable roles, Bring Her Back offers up a terrifyingly unhinged depiction of grief and emotional manipulation, while still delivering some extremely gruesome horror thrills that have since become a hallmark for the Philippou brothers. In what is clearly their most personal and accomplished effort to date, the former Raka Raka duo have established themselves as the premier example to have made the successful leap from the YouTube platform into the realm of filmmaking, while becoming legitimate modern-day auteurs of the horror genre in the process. Upon second viewing, this has easily become not only one of my favorite films that A24 has ever put out, but also one of my favorite horror films, period. And I sincerely hope the Philippou brothers continue to make films this terrifyingly intelligent for the rest of their career. Now, that is going to bring us right to the film I have at number 8.
Some people watching this may feel like you have something to answer for. What do you say to that?
At number 8, I have Predators from director David Ossett. Now, this was one of the breakout documentaries from last year's Sundance Film Festival, and I unfortunately missed it when it was on the online portal. But when I sat down to see this in theaters last October, I was immediately sucked into the breakdown of every facet and motivation that went into the creation of the popular television show To Catch a Predator, questioning if it even at all helped with achieving actual justice for victims of sexual abuse in its aftermath. This is one of the very few documentaries that had me endlessly riveted at every surprising twist and turn, reflecting the mirror back onto those who created the show, specifically Chris Hansen, questioning whether the show's approach was entirely ethical or if it was ultimately to feed pure ego and sensationalism, even making you reckon with feeling somewhat empathetic towards those who you would have never initially reserved any empathy for at all, with every single subject being allowed to present their individual perspective and experiences, as well as how the show inspired and shaped similar programs in its aftermath. Predators accomplishes everything a documentary should, and then some, with a final stinger of an ending that will stay on my mind for quite a long while. Now, I know that this isn't a widely held opinion, but because of all this, Predators is so far my favorite documentary to be released this decade, and I really do hope that you all seek this one out for yourselves if you have not seen it already. And that will lead us right into my number 7.
Is it true? You know everything about a person by touching them here?
Not everything.
Now, the difference in placement of these next 4 films is like razor thin, even though this one's probably just a ever so slight peg down. And at number 7, I have Hamnet, directed by Chloe Zhao. In following up her disappointing adaptation of Marvel's Eternals, Chloe Zhao brought us one of the most emotionally devastating and transcendent dramas I have ever seen, telling the fictionalized account of the romance between Agnes and William Shakespeare and the family tragedy that shapes what is arguably the legendary writer's most enduring and iconic masterpiece. Sensuous, pensive, and mystifying are just a few words to describe the atmosphere and tone Zhao creates for what is otherwise such a grounded and harrowing piece of art, encapsulating the beautiful love story at its center, as well as the hard-hitting grief that follows, brought to life by career best work from both Jessie Buckley and Paul Mescal, as well as an outstanding child performance from Jacoby Jupe. Hamnet is a masterful tribute to the transformative and healing power of art in what will go down as one of the most moving and cathartic endings in the history of cinema, and easily the greatest accomplishment of Chloe Zhao's career. And that will now move us along to my number 6.
À 3 ans, on remarque tout et on ne comprend rien. Ouvre-toi. Dieu avait enfin un regard. Et encore aussi. Que pouvait-il faire de ça? Ce corps était sa prison. Mais...
Coming in at the number 6 spot is Little Amelie, or The Character of Rain, which is pretty handedly the best animated film from 2025, harkening back to the works of Hayao Miyazaki, yet feeling so singular in its own presentation and artistic merit. Little Amelie, or The Character of Rain, is one of the most delightful, evocative, and profound animated films in recent memory, in a coming-of-age story based on Amélie Nothom's own upbringing. Exploring topics as wide-reaching as cultural imperialism, identity, the devastation of war, and the continuous cycle of life, this film somehow still manages to remain accessible to a younger audience while giving the adults a deeply rich and thoughtful story to latch onto. The vibrant and distinctive animation often blends surrealism to reflect the character's emotions, as well as the narrative symbolism in its storytelling, melding together in such a way that emotionally blindsided me. I don't know if I cried more in a movie from all 2025. Not even Hamnet got me as emotional as this one did. And at under a crisp 80-minute runtime, I found Little Amelie to be one of the most immediately investing and enthralling films of the year, capturing the imagination and profundity that is contained within the mind of a child better than any film I can think of. Like with Memoir of a Snail last year, I seriously don't know how this isn't a runaway favorite to win the Best Animated Feature Oscar, as along with that film, ranks at the top of the best animated films of the decade. And we have made it finally to the top 5 of 2025, which is no easy feat considering how close all these entries are. But without further ado, let's get right into my number 5.
I have a purpose.
Okay.
Let me ask you something. Do you make money at this little table tennis thing?
Not yet.
Do you have a job?
No.
Backhand! Backhand! Forehand!
And rounding out the top half of my list, I have Marty Supreme, directed by Josh Safdie. The second year in a row a Timothée Chalamet-led film has cracked the top 5, and if I had to guess, probably not the last. After the creative split between brothers Josh and Benny Safdie, which I'm not even going to get into in this video, It was only a question of which one of them would follow up with the same creative and chaotic energy that carried their previous two films in their solo debut. The answer, of course, was Josh Safdie with Marty Supreme, which is the most wildly exhilarating and unpredictable sports drama ever conceived, with what is easily the most eclectic ensemble cast from all of 2025, anchored by a wiry and magnetic central performance from Timothée Chalamet in arguably his most iconic role to date. Josh Safdie is able to expand the scope of his canvas and populate his vision of 1950s New York City with so many memorable characters who are either there to get in the way of Marty Mauser or for him to trample over. Coupled with Daniel Lopatin's mesmerizing score and the most electric ping-pong matches ever captured on film, this tense and thrilling character study about American exceptionalism and the unchecked ambition of youth serves as a natural extension of Safdie's already established oeuvre in what is his most ambitious, entertaining, and mature effort as a filmmaker. And with another amazing film out of the way, we're going to move it right into the next one, coming in at number 4.
There are legends of people born with the gift of making music so true it can pierce the veil between life and death, conjuring spirits from the past and the future.
Look, guys, you knew this was coming. At number 4, I have Ryan Coogler's Sinners. This was the first truly great film from 2025, and I knew as soon as I walked out of the theater that this was guaranteed a slot on my top 10 list, if not my top 5. A cultural, commercial, critical, and awards juggernaut to the likes of which we've never seen. Sinners is a magnificent culmination of Ryan Coogler's already stellar directorial career, one that utilizes genre fusion, American history, cultural identity, and the dichotomy between religion and the blues as fuel to power its already exceptionally well-rounded cast of characters. With what might be the finest ensemble cast of the entire year, Coogler brings them all together in one night of blood, sweat, tears, and most importantly, music, all captured in a wonder that serves as the film's centerpiece, which is one of the most spellbinding and emotionally captivating sequences in the history of the movies. Bolstered by what is soon to be another Oscar-winning score from Ludwig Göransson, Sinners captures just how powerful music can be in bridging the past, present, future, as well as community together better than anything I could ever think of. And considering a black-led vampire film shattered the all-time nomination ceiling at the Academy Awards, we sure have come a long way when it comes to meaningful representation in the industry, and I would only be slightly surprised if this takes home the Academy's biggest prize. This is one of those films that I think is going to be in the same vein of something like The Exorcist or Get Out as a classic American horror film that will be seen as such far into the future. And now we move on to what I believe are the 3 surefire cinematic masterpieces to come out of 2025. And without further ado, let's get into my number 3.
16 years later, the world had changed very little.
I know, how predictable. Well, actually, maybe not. But at number 3, I have One Battle After Another, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. You're probably thinking, what? What could you possibly have in the top 2 slots? Well, we'll get into that. But in a career that is one of the most legendary in independent cinema, chock full of iconic classics, Paul Thomas Anderson brings us what is simultaneously his funniest, most accessible, action-packed, and masterfully orchestrated film yet. One that can't help but feel indicative of everything that came before. Assembling a stacked ensemble cast filled with some of the most famous acting heavyweights in the industry, Anderson is able to glean every ounce of their tremendous talent in service of a film that is part farcical satire, stoner comedy, and crime thriller, sometimes all at once. But even in its most absurdly hysterical moments, somehow he is able to capture a profound darkness behind the political commentary that feels so relevant, yet never distracting from the revolutionary journey at hand. Wildly quotable, pristinely edited, and endlessly entertaining, featuring a car chase that is one for the ages. Rarely has a nearly 3-hour film ever flown by so fast or felt as urgent as One Battle After Another, which I think reflects our current times better than any movie in recent memory. This is another gigantic feather in the cap in the career of one of our greatest filmmakers, and very worthy of the Best Picture Oscar. And now it's like, what could possibly come after One Battle After Another? Well, that is what I'm about to tell you as I dive into my top 2 choices on this list, starting off with number 2.
빨리 쳐.
And landing at number 2 on my list, I have A Normal Family from He Jin-ho. And you guys are probably like, Nathaniel, what the hell is this movie? Well, this is the great thing about doing these lists. When you see something that is so off the beaten path that completely bowls you over when you are expecting it the least, that is exactly what happened with A Normal Family, a movie I've heard about since the Toronto Film Festival back in 2023, but it didn't get a theatrical release until 2025. And as soon as this film began, I did not want to avert my eyes from the screen for a single second. With a screenplay so meticulous in its construction, establishing each and every character dynamic in a clear and succinct manner, He Jin-ho offers up an unpredictable and thoroughly compelling morality tale that tears at the heart of this upper-class Korean family and the dire consequences that could wittingly unravel them. In a classic tale of brother against brother, who each land on opposite sides of the spectrum, both occupationally and morally, this delivers some exceptional character work at every twist and turn along the way, featuring a stellar cast that all more than rise to the occasion. A Normal Family is a stupendous adaptation of The Dinner that feels culturally specific yet universal at the same time, and one where the less you know going in, the better. Seriously, if you aren't familiar with the novel at all, like myself, you should absolutely go into this as blind as possible, because that really elevated the entire experience for me. And even then, I'm sure that this might just work for you no matter what. And the reason I think this ranks above One Battle After Another for me is just right from the go, I was immediately hooked in to watching this movie in a way that not even One Battle After Another did for me on my initial viewing of the film. This really is one of the unsung masterpieces of the decade. And that leaves us with one more film from 2025 to talk about. What could that be? Well, let me get into what landed at the number 1 spot for my favorite film of 2025.
미국에서는 해골을 도끼질한다고 한다면서요. 한국에선 뭐라 그러는지 아세요? 넌 뭐하지야?
And for my favorite film of 2025, well, I guess you could say there was no other choice. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. At number 1, I have No Other Choice, directed by the master filmmaker Park Chan-wook. Almost immediately after seeing his latest feature, I had a feeling that nothing would be topping this for the rest of the year, and I was right. From one jaw-dropping transition to the next, to each and every superimposition and perfectly blocked camera movement, No Other Choice features what is easily the most masterful command and utilization of the cinematic language from anything in 2025. I mean, seriously, why is every shot in this movie going so damn hard? And in exploring the ever-increasing rise of AI in the workplace and the disruptive effect technology has had on maintaining the status quo, director Park was able to create his funniest, most accessible, and satirical film to date, with a top-notch screenplay to guide us through perhaps the worst bout of unemployment in history, held together by a tour de force performance from Lee Byung-hun at its center, who somehow elicits an incredible amount of empathy despite his heinous and perhaps misguided actions. Park Chan-wook has proved once again that there aren't many directors working today able to create something this singular and cinematic, and in doing so reminded me of exactly what this medium is capable of. And between this and A Normal Family claiming the top 2 spots on this list, it's proof that Korean cinema is more alive and dominant than ever before, and that no other country does it quite like they do, producing some of the finest cinema in the world at large. Even if the Academy refuses to recognize it, and look, I'm never getting over that snub, by the way. I'm sorry, that is one of the most foul and heinous things they've ever done.
Goes for Roman Polanski.
But ultimately, that doesn't really bother me. And you know why? Because I think that No Other Choice is undeniably, for me, as I'm sure a lot of people who see it will agree, an all-time classic. And that's a wrap on 2025. Yet again, one of the greatest years in cinema that I have had the pleasure of being a part of, and getting to see so many incredible films throughout the year, and I can only hope that this year the streak is going to continue. Haven't seen too many amazing films yet this year, but of course, with movies like Project Hail Mary right around the corner, I feel like things are going to start to change very, very soon. So thank you for tuning into this video. Please be sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, especially if you want to see more video essays like this one. I look forward to this more than anything for the entire year. And trust me, this week was not easy, but I had to make sure that I got this out to you guys, and for my own sanity, of course. And I sincerely hope that you all enjoy this year's Oscars. I will talk to you guys very soon, and I'm very much looking forward to it. Take it easy now.